Hello students, in today's lecture I'll explain The Village Schoolmaster by Oliver Goldsmith. So the schoolmaster referred in the title is Mr. Thomas Paddy Byrne, who was Oliver Goldsmith's teacher. Now the poem is an extract from the famous 18th century poem The Deserted Village. And the village he talks about in the poem is Auburn. And in the poem, Goldsmith condemns migration to urban settings in the pursuit of wealth. It is written in heroic couplet and it was positively received by many critics. To talk about the inspiration or Goldsmith dedicated this poem to his friend Sir Joshua Reynolds, who promoted Goldsmith's comedy The Good Natured Man. So, in the poem, Goldsmith reflects on the jovial and vibrant country life and the innocent nature of rustics. He portrays his schoolmaster as strict, disciplined, and also fun loving man. He was respected and admired by the simple folks, and he enjoyed the status and popularity. To start the poem, beside yon straggling fence that skirts the way, with blossomed firs unprofitably gay, there in his noisy mansion, skilled to rule, the village master taught his little school. Beside means nearby or by the side of. Yon means that he is pointing towards the school and he's saying that besides that. Fence is of course a barrier which encloses an area. Blossomed firs. Now blossomed is something which blooms. Firs is a wild bush with yellow flowers. Okay. So the poet states that the school it was located near an irregular fence. Okay, straggle. I've told that straggle means to something which grows or spread in an irregular or untidy way. Okay, so skirts the way means to run along the way. So he says that first of all he talks about the location of the village. He says that the school was located it nearby the fence, and that fence it was covered with yellow flowers, and the flowers he says that they appear to be happy. He says the phrase unprofitably gay. It suggests that despite being ignored, the flowers were happy with the surroundings, not like the natives who chose to desert the rural life. So, in the first couplet, he talks about the location of the school, that it was situated, it was located near the straggling, near the dilapidated fence, and on the way, he says that there were yellow flowers which were blooming happily. In the next couplet, he says, there in his noisy mansion, skilled to rule, the village master taught his little school. So, in this couplet, the poet presents the schoolmaster as the king or lord of a mansion, which was, of course, his school. Because of his learning, he was admired and respected by the rustics or by the simple village people, and therefore he enjoyed king like status because he was the only teacher. The school has been described as a noisy mansion. It was not a high school, it was a primary school. It was noisy maybe because no other teacher was there. He was the only teacher, he was the only owner, he was the only, you could say, a teacher who used to teach in this school. So uh, that's why he says that he is considered as the lord, or he is considered as a person who enjoys king like status. A man severe he was, and stern to view. I knew him well, and every truant knew. Well had the boding tremblers learned to trace The day's disasters in his morning face. Now in this couplet he talks about the schoolmaster's personality, and he comments that he was strict, he was disciplinarian, and he was severe in nature. Okay, and the village schoolmaster was aware, he was familiar with every truant of the school. Now truant is one who stays out of school without permission. Okay, the line suggests that the schoolmaster was well aware of all the students, whether they attended class or whether they bunked it. Okay. Well had the boarding tremblers learned to trace the day's disaster in his morning face. Now, the phrase boarding tremblers has been used for the frightened students. The school children were familiar with all his expressions. So, if the schoolmaster, if he appeared angry, if he appeared gloomy or happy, the students would immediately find out by simply looking at his face. Okay, so they could easily trace the upcoming danger by looking at his face, the day's disaster in his morning face. So if, in the morning, if the schoolmaster appeared gloomy, if he appeared angry, then they would immediately recognize it. Full well they laughed with counterfeited glee at all his jokes, for many a joke had he. Full well the busy whisper circling round conveyed the dismal tidings when he frowned. Now, the first couplet, counterfeited means artificial or fake. So, in this couplet, Goldsmith says, many a joke had he. So, he was not aware of many jokes. The schoolmaster simply stated, he simply cracked one or two jokes many times. He was not aware of many jokes. So, whenever he used to crack these jokes again and again, so these students, these helpless students, they didn't have any option but to the but to laugh fake. Okay, he says that they full well they laughed with counterfeited artificial fake. They didn't have any option. The students used to laugh whenever he cracked any joke. Full well the busy whisper circling round conveyed the dismal tidings when he frowned. And whenever he was angry, whenever he appeared gloomy, or whenever he appeared something frightened, you could sorry, not frightened, whenever he was angry, the this whisper or this news used to you could say regulate in the whole school. तो जब भी एंग्री होता था, जब भी किसी से नाराज होता था, तो ये जो न्यूज़ है वो पूरी स्कूल में फैल जाया करती थी. Yet he was kind, or if severe in aught, the love he bore to learning was in fault. The village all declared how much he knew. It was certain he could write and cipher too. But still, despite being strict, being severe, being disciplinarian, Goldsmith says that he was a kind man. He was not bad. Although he was strict, but you can't say that he was ill-tempered or he was bad. He says that he was a kind man, and if he was strict in anything, or is anything, he says that if he was strict in anything, or if you could point out at his mistake, you could say that his learn or his over learning was only his fault. He devoted excess time in his learning, in his teaching. So Goldsmith says that only this was his fault, that he loved his teaching, or the learning which he had, it was excessive. The village, the rustics, they all declared, they all knew, or they all were aware of his learnings. It was certain he could write and cipher too. He was teacher. Okay, so that's why, of course, he could write well, he could read well, and apart from that, cipher is to calculate. He was also good in arithmetics. He was also good in mathematical calculations. Lands he could measure, terms and tides presage, and even the story ran that he could gauge. In arguing too, the person owned his skill. For even though vanquished, he could argue still. Now he was also expert in measuring the lands, in telling, in determining the borders exactly. Terms and tides, you could say, has been used to. He could forecast weather conditions. He could predict about the weather. He could, and even the story, and even it was believed that he was expert in complex mathematical concepts too. God is mathematical, something which is complex. Okay, so he was also expert in solving complex mathematical concepts. And apart from that, he was also expert in argumentation. The parson owned his skill, the village parson. Even he admitted about the wide learning of this schoolmaster. For even though vanquished, he could argue still. Vanquished is defeated. सो द विलेज स्कूल मास्टर जो है, जब हार भी जाते थे किसी आर्ग्यूमेंट में, तब भी वो बहस करना रोकते नहीं थे. वो कंटिन्यू अपनी, इन ऑर्डर टू prove himself right, in order to, you could say, in order to show off his learning, he could continue arguing with the nether person. While words of learned length and thundering sound amaze the gazing rustics ranked around. Words of learned length has been used to refer to the Latin. Maybe he was aware of Latin words, and whenever he used to argue, he used to throw these Latin words, he used to utter these Latin words in front of his speakers, and this really amazed the simple rustics. जब वो ऐसी लैंग्वेज बोलता था, तो सामने जो गांव वाले होते थे, जो रस्टिक्स होते थे, वो उसकी जो ये स्पीच है, ये ऐसे वर्ड्स है, ऐसी जो वोकेबलरी थी, उसको देख के अमेज्ड हो जाते थे. दे ऑल वर ऑ स्ट्रक बाय हिज लर्निंग. And still they gazed, and still the wonder grew. That one small head could carry all he knew. They all wondered that he knew all of these things. They used to think that village schoolmaster, इसे इतनी सारी चीज़ें कैसे पता हो सकती हैं. Now in the last couplet, he remembers the schoolmaster, and he says that, but past is all his fame. The very spot where many a time he triumphed is forgot. But today, no one remembers the schoolmaster, and the very place where he used to defeat all his opponents, where the people admired him, where the simple rustics followed him. Now, this place is forgotten, the village schoolmaster is forgotten. So, once the village schoolmaster enjoyed popularity, he enjoyed fame, but all of this has become thing of the past, and now he is only a memory. Now he is not only remembered. That's all. I think it's clear to you. That's all for today. Thank you.